Close your eyes and picture Earth, the planet you know. Cities, roads, fields, fences, farms, deserts in Africa, ice in the poles, forests broken up by highways and houses. Now delete all of it. Delete everything a human hand has ever touched. What you're left with is the world your ancestors were born into. A planet so wild, so loud, so packed with life you wouldn't recognize a single corner of it. A world where the Sahara was a green savanna with rivers and hippos, where the night sky was bright enough to cast shadows, where the ground shook under animals we've since wiped off the face of the earth. That's what this video is about. Not ancient history the way textbooks teach it, the actual sensory reality of the planet when your species first showed up. What it looked like, sounded like, and what was out there in the dark. Because the world we live in today is a pale, quiet, emptied-out version of what once existed. When Homo sapiens first appeared around 300,000 years ago, the continent looked nothing like today. Start with the Sahara. Right now, it's the largest hot desert on Earth, 9 million square kilometers of sand and rock. But 10,000 years ago, it was green. Dense grasslands, trees, rivers, lakes full of fish. Hippos lived there. Elephants roamed through it. Early humans fished and hunted in a place that is now one of the most hostile on the planet. Scientists call it the Green Sahara. The evidence is everywhere. Fossilized riverbeds visible from satellite, cave paintings of swimming people in what is now lifeless desert, bones of crocodiles buried under the sand. What changed it? Partly climate shifts, partly livestock stripping the vegetation and altering how the land reflected sunlight back into the sky. A lush landscape slowly baked into desert, partly because humans showed up with goats. This wasn't just Africa. Vast forests covered regions where deserts now dominate. Europe was thick with old-growth woodland, so dense early humans often couldn't walk straight through it. Sea levels sat much lower during ice ages. Entire land masses now underwater were above ground. And people walked between continents on land bridges that no longer exist. The animals are the hardest part to picture, because what shared the planet with your ancestors was genuinely unlike anything alive today. In Europe, cave lions prowled the landscape. Not modern lions, 25% larger, adapted to cold. People painted them on cave walls at Chauvet in France, which means they saw them often enough to record them. Those same caves were shared with cave bears weighing up to 500 kilograms. The cave wasn't free. You competed for it. In the Americas, the list reads like a fantasy novel. Short-faced bears standing 6 feet at the shoulder, the most dangerous land predator on the continent. Giant ground sloths 10 feet long and over 2,000 pounds, walking on their knuckles because their claws were too large to lay flat. Glyptodonts armored like tanks the size of a car. Dire wolves, American lions, mastodons alongside woolly mammoths, and horses because horses evolved in the Americas and only disappeared there around 10,000 years ago. Right when humans arrived. In Australia, it got stranger. Diprotodon, a wombat the size of a rhinoceros. Marsupial lions. Megalania, a monitor lizard 7 meters long, still alive when humans reached the continent 50,000 years ago. Something the size of a car with teeth watching you from the grass. And everywhere, mammoths. They weren't rare. They were part of the landscape the way cattle are part of ours. Hunted, painted, their bones used to build houses. The last woolly mammoth died 4,000 years ago on an Arctic island while the Egyptian pyramids were already standing. The world still had mammoths when humans were building the Sphinx. What happened to them wherever humans arrived? Africa, Europe, the Americas, Australia, the large animals vanished within a few thousand years. Climate gets partial blame, but the pattern is too consistent, too perfectly timed with human arrival to ignore. The world your ancestors inherited was full of giants. The world they left behind was not. There was no light pollution, not one electric light anywhere on Earth. The sky every night was completely, perfectly dark in a way almost nobody alive today has experienced. The Milky Way blazed every clear night, bright enough to cast a faint shadow. Every star visible. Today, a third of the world's population can't see the Milky Way from where they live. Your ancestors saw it every single night of their lives. It wasn't just beautiful, it was functional. The sky was their calendar. Certain star clusters rose at predictable times, signaling when to migrate, when rains were coming. The Pleiades appear in the mythology of indigenous cultures on every continent, including ones with zero contact with each other, suggesting humans were tracking that cluster before they spread out of Africa over 100,000 years ago. The sky was a shared text every human on Earth was reading simultaneously, before writing existed. Eclipses were among the most terrifying events possible, the sun dying midday with no warning. Before fire, half of every human life was spent in total darkness. After fire, the circle of light around a campfire was everything. Beyond it, the night was absolute. The ancient world was loud. Not city loud, alive loud. Insect swarms that created walls of sound. Bird populations so massive that migrations darkened the sky. The passenger pigeon alone numbered in the billions. Frog choruses around every water source, deafening in warm months. Whale song carrying hundreds of miles through oceans with no engine noise to compete with. Herds so large the ground vibrated as they moved. Rivers were clear enough to see the bottom. Salmon runs so thick the water appeared to boil. The oceans held whales in populations several times what they are today before commercial whaling began in the 17th century. Here's the thing about a world that full. It was also a world that full of death. Your ancestors weren't watching from a safe distance. They were in it. Prey as often as predators. Drinking from the same rivers as animals that could kill them. Sleeping on the same ground as things that hunted at night. Every sound mattered. Every shift in animal behavior was information. Which way a herd moved, what the wind was carrying, where water was. Read constantly because missing it could mean dying. Their nervous system was tuned to that world. Ours still is underneath. The fear responses, the hyper-awareness, the instincts, all built for that environment. We just live in a world where they fire at phone notifications instead of actual predators. So what was the world like when ancient humans were alive? A green Sahara. Forests with no end, skies so dark the stars cast shadows, oceans packed with life, giants on every continent, rivers so clear and full you could feed a camp in an afternoon. And then we happened. Everywhere humans spread, the world got quieter. The giants disappeared, the forests shrank, the sky filled with light that drowned the stars, so gradually that nobody noticed until it was already gone. What's left is still beautiful, but it's a fraction of what once existed. Emptied out and quieted down over thousands of years until the people living in it don't even know what's missing. Your ancestors were born into something extraordinary. The further we get from it, the less we remember it was ever lost.